You're pathetic, Sloan. Just walk. Maybe the heat will sweat out some of that entitlement. Dominic's voice crackled through the phone like a whip before the line went dead. I stood on the blistering asphalt of an Austin suburban road, my knuckles white as I gripped the phone. Beside me, Leo was sobbing, his small face flushed a dangerous red. "Mommy, my shoes are melting," he wailed. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was watching my own silver SUV, the one I bought with my inheritance, disappear over the hill. My mother-in-law, Victoria, was at the wheel, and her daughter Amber was filming me from the passenger window, laughing. "I am going to burn their world down," I whispered, the rage inside me far hotter than the 110-degree sun. A roar of an engine broke the heat haze. My father's heavy-duty truck screeched to a halt beside us. Harrison jumped out, his face a mask of thunder. "Get in," he barked, grabbing the groceries. "I saw them, Sloan. I saw that woman drive right past you." "I don't want to ride, Dad," I spat, my voice trembling with pure, unadulterated fury. "I want blood." "Get in the truck, Sloan. We're going to the house." 10 minutes later, we fishtailed into the driveway. Victoria and Amber were laughing as they pulled designer garment bags from my trunk. Dominic stood on the porch, checking his watch. "What the hell is this, Dominic?" I roared, slamming the truck door so hard the glass rattled. I marched up the driveway, ignoring the sweat stinging my eyes. Dominic didn't flinch. He looked at me with a smirk that made my skin crawl. "Oh, look, the hiker returns. Keep your voice down, Sloan. The neighbors don't need to hear your tantrum." "My tantrum?" I stepped into his space, my finger buried in his chest. "Your mother stole my car and left your son in the middle of a heat wave. Are you insane? Or just that much of a coward?" "Stole? Don't be dramatic," Victoria interjected, waving a silk scarf. "We were borrowing it. Amber has a high-profile fitting. Image is everything in our circle. You're just a stay-at-home mom, Sloan. You don't need a luxury vehicle to buy milk." "It's my car, Victoria. My name is on the title." "In this family, everything belongs to the one who provides." Dominic stepped forward, his voice dropping into that low, manipulative tone he used to control me. "And since I pay the $4,200 rent for this roof over your head, I decide who drives what. You should be thanking my mother for teaching you some humility." I felt a hysterical laugh bubble up in my throat. "Humility? You think you're the provider, Dominic? You think you're the king of this castle because you sign a piece of paper every month?" "I know I am," he sneered. "And if you ever talk to my mother like that again, I'll have the locks changed by morning. You're a guest here, Sloan. Never forget that." "Change the locks?" I moved closer, my face inches from his. I could smell his expensive cologne, bought with the money I saved him on bills. "You want to change the locks on this house?" "Try me," Dominic challenged. "Go inside, start dinner, and shut your mouth. You're lucky I don't kick you out right now." I turned to my father, who was standing by the truck, his hand already on his phone. "Dad," I called out, my voice steady and cold as ice. "Call the locksmith. Not for tomorrow, for right now." Dominic laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Are you deaf? I said I pay the rent. You have no standing here, Sloan. You're a freelancer with a hobby. You're nothing." "You're right about one thing, Dominic," I said, reaching into my bag and pulling out a folder I'd kept hidden in the truck's glove box for months. I slapped it against his chest. You do pay $4,200 a month to a company called Blue Horizon Holdings. Tell me, did you ever bother to check who the CEO of that company is?" Dominic frowned, looking at the document. His face went from arrogant to confused, then pale. "What is this?" "That's the deed, you arrogant prick," I hissed. "I bought this house in cash 3 years ago. I am Blue Horizon Holdings. You've been paying rent to me. You aren't the provider. You're my tenant, and you just broke the first rule of your lease." Victoria's jaw dropped. You own this? But the money you thought you were entitled to?" I turned on her, my eyes blazing. "I hid it so vultures like you couldn't touch it. And while you were busy leaving me to die in the sun, I was deciding whether or not to evict you." Dominic stepped back, his voice shaking. "Sloan, let's be reasonable. Reasonable died on the asphalt 3 miles back." I snapped. "Dad, tell the locksmith to hurry. I want these parasites on the sidewalk before the sun goes down." The silence that followed my revelation was deafening. The Texas heat shimmered over the driveway, but the air between us had turned to absolute zero. Dominic stared at the deed in his hands, his fingers trembling so hard the paper rattled. Victoria's face transformed from smug arrogance to a ghostly, sickly pale, while Amber stood frozen, her designer garment bag dragging in the dirt. You lied to me," Dominic stammered, his voice cracking. "For 3 years, you let me believe I was building a life for us. You let me write those checks." "I didn't lie, Dominic. I just didn't correct your ego," I snapped, my voice like a serrated blade. "Every time you slammed a check on the counter and told me to be grateful for the roof over my head," I smiled. "Why? Because I was busy putting your rent into a high-yield savings account for Leo, a future you were too busy posturing to actually build." "This is illegal. You can't be a landlord to your own husband," Victoria shrieked, finding her voice. She stepped toward me, her face contorted with malice. "You tricked him! You're a snake, Sloan! A calculating, cold-hearted snake!" I turned on her so fast, she stumbled back. "I'm a snake? You stole my car, Victoria. You left your grandson in a triple-digit heat wave so your spoiled daughter could play dress-up. If anyone is a predator here, it's the woman who treats her daughter-in-law like a servant and her grandson like an afterthought." "Enough!" Dominic roared, trying to reclaim some shred of his shattered dignity. "Fine. You own the house. Big deal. We're married, Sloan. What's yours is mine. You can't just throw us out. This is a domestic issue. The police will laugh at you." I felt a cold, dark satisfaction settle in my chest. "Is that what you think? That this is just a marital spat?" I looked at my father, Harrison, who had been silently watching the perimeter like a hawk. "Dad, did you get the notification?" Harrison nodded, his jaw set. "Just now. The alerts are screaming, Sloan." I pulled my phone out. I had just enough battery left to open my secure banking app. "You talk about what's mine is yours, Dominic, but it seems your family thinks what's mine is theirs to steal." I flipped the screen around. 3 hours ago, while I was walking home in the heat, someone accessed my secondary account, the one linked to the property taxes. $4,000 drained, transferred to an account ending in 8892. Does that number look familiar, Victoria? Victoria's eyes darted to her purse. Amber gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "And that's not the best part," I continued, my voice dripping with venom. "I got a credit hit 10 minutes ago. A new platinum visa opened in my name using my social security number. The billing address? Your mother's condo. The first charge? An $82,000 deposit for a wedding venue in Napa Valley for Amber." The air left the group again. Dominic looked at his sister, Then his mother. "Mom, what is she talking about?" "She's lying!" Amber yelled, though her voice was an octave too high. "She's just trying to ruin my wedding because she's jealous." "The bank doesn't lie, Amber," I hissed, stepping closer to her. "Identity theft is a felony. Grand theft is a felony. You didn't just borrow my car today. You tried to harvest my life to pay for your delusions of grandeur." "Sloan, honey, let's go inside and talk," Dominic said, his voice suddenly shifting into a patronizing, reasonable tone. He reached for my arm. "We're family. We can settle this. I'll make them pay it back. We don't need to involve the law." I recoiled from his touch as if he were a leper. "Don't honey me. You knew, didn't you? Or you were too busy feeling big to notice your mother was bleeding me dry. Either way, you're done." "You can't evict me tonight," Dominic shouted, his face turning purple. "I have rights. There's a process." "Section 24, paragraph B of the lease you signed, Dominic," I said, pointing to the folder in his hand. "Immediate termination for criminal activity on the premises. Identity theft and fraud qualify. You aren't a husband right now. You're a liability." I looked down the street. A white van with A1 lock and key was turning the corner. Behind it, a black and white police cruiser followed. "The locksmith is here," I said, a terrifyingly calm smile spreading across my face. "And I believe the officers are here for Victoria's statement or her confession, whichever comes first." The sirens didn't wail. They groaned to a halt, their blue and red lights dancing mockingly across the white stucco of the house. 2 officers stepped out, their boots crunching on the gravel. The atmosphere shifted instantly from a family brawl to a crime scene. "What is the meaning of this?" Victoria shrieked, her voice reaching a frantic, bird-like pitch. She clutching her designer garment bag as if it were a shield. "Sloan, tell them to leave. You are making a spectacle of us." "I'm not making a spectacle, Victoria," I said, crossing my arms as I stood firmly on my driveway. "I'm filing a report." One of the officers, a tall man with a stone-cold expression named Officer Miller, approached us. "We received a call regarding identity theft and a potential trespassing issue. Who is the property owner?" "I am," I said, stepping forward. I handed him the deed and the LLC incorporation papers from my folder. "Sloan Bennett, I am the sole owner of 804 Pinnacle Drive. And these people," I gestured to Dominic, Victoria, and Amber, "have violated the terms of their residency through felony activity." Dominic stepped in, trying to flash that charming salesman smile that used to work on me. "Officer, there's been a massive misunderstanding. I'm her husband. We're just having a little disagreement about the house. You know how it is, heat of the moment." Officer Miller didn't smile back. He looked at the deed, then at Dominic. "Is your name on this document, sir?" "Well, no, but—" "Then you're a tenant," the officer snapped. He turned to me. "You mentioned identity theft?" I held up my phone, showing the digital alerts and the bank trail. $82,000. A wedding venue in Napa Valley. The application was made using my social security number and a forged electronic signature. The IP address for the application traces back to this house's Wi-Fi, and the contact phone number listed is hers. I pointed directly at Amber. Amber's face went from pale to ghostly. I didn't. Mom said it was an inheritance fund. She said it was okay." The silence that followed was a death knell. Victoria turned on her daughter, her eyes wide with panic. "Amber, shut your mouth!" "Oh, so it was a joint effort?" I stepped toward Victoria, my voice vibrating with a decade's worth of suppressed rage. "You thought I was so small, so insignificant that I wouldn't notice $82,000 vanishing? You thought I was just a walking ATM that cooked your dinners and took your insults? Sloan, stop it! Dominic grabbed my shoulder, his grip too tight. You're ruining Amber's life over a mistake. We can pay it back. I'll take out a loan. With what credit, Dominic? I shoved his hand off me, my eyes flashing. You don't have a dime that I didn't help you save, and you don't touch me ever again. I turned back to the officer. I have the logs. I have the lease agreement which stipulates immediate eviction for criminal acts, and I want them off my property. Now. The locksmith had already begun working on the front door, the metallic click-clack of the tumblers being replaced, providing a rhythmic underscore to the chaos. Officer, she's attacking me! Victoria suddenly wailed. In a move so desperate it was almost pathetic, she grabbed a decorative ceramic vase from the porch table and smashed it on the ground. She raked her own nails across her forearm, drawing thin lines of red. Look! She's hysterical! She's violent! I fear for my life! She pulled out her phone, dialing 911 while screaming into the receiver about an assault. My father, Harrison, who had been leaning against his truck with a grim smile, finally spoke. He pointed to the corner of the porch ceiling. Check the ring, Victoria, and the 4 high-def 4K security cameras I installed last month. He pulled his own tablet from his belt. Audio and video recorded in the cloud. We saw you break the vase. We saw you scratch yourself. It's all there, live streamed to a secure server. Victoria froze, her hand mid-air, the fake tears drying instantly on her cheeks. The trap hadn't just snapped shut, it had crushed her. Victoria Miller, Officer Miller said, reaching for his handcuffs. You're under arrest for filing a false police report and suspected identity theft. Amber Miller, you need to come with us for questioning. As the metal cuffs clicked around Victoria's wrists, I felt a weight lift off my chest that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Dominic, I said, looking at my husband as he watched his mother being led to the patrol car. The locksmith will be done in 10 minutes. Your suitcases are in the garage. I suggest you find a place to stay that fits your provider budget, because you're officially homeless. The driveway was a battlefield of broken ceramic and shattered illusions. As the patrol car door slammed shut with Victoria inside, the red and blue lights continued to strobe against the house. My house. Amber was being led to the second cruiser, her designer heels catching in the gravel, her face a mask of snot and ruined mascara. Sloan, please! Dominic yelled, his voice cracking as he stood between the locksmith and the front door. You're destroying my family. My mother is an old woman. She can't handle jail. Have you no heart? I walked toward him, each step deliberate, until I was close enough to see the beads of sweat dripping from his chin. I didn't feel the heat anymore. I was a glacier. My heart? You're asking about my heart? I let out a sharp, jagged laugh. Where was your heart when you told me to walk 3 miles in a heat wave with your son? Where was your heart when you stood on this porch and called me a guest in my own home? You didn't marry a woman, Dominic. You married what you thought was a shadow. Well, the sun shifted, and the shadow has teeth. I didn't know about the money, he pleaded, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. I swear, I thought the wedding fund was something Mom had saved. I didn't know she stole your identity. Ignorance is not an excuse for a man who claims to be the provider. I spat the word back at him like a curse. You were so blinded by your own ego, so thrilled by the idea of me being beneath you, that you didn't care where the money came from as long as it kept your mother happy and your ego fed. The locksmith, a burly man who had been pointedly ignoring the drama, stepped back. All done, ma'am. Master keys changed, deadbolts reinforced, and the garage code has been wiped. Here are the new sets. The heavy jingle of the new keys hitting my palm was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I took one and held it up in front of Dominic's face. "Your suitcases are in the garage, Dominic. I packed them this morning while you were busy working from your home office. I knew this day was coming. I just didn't think you'd be stupid enough to help me speed it up." "You're kicking me out? Just like that? In front of your father?" Dominic turned to Harrison, looking for a shred of masculine solidarity. "Harrison, talk to her. We're men. We can settle this without the lawyers." My father didn't even blink. He crossed his massive arms over his chest, looking at Dominic like a piece of faulty foundation that needed to be demolished. "The only thing we have to settle, Dominic, is how fast you can get your trash off my daughter's property. And if you ever raise your voice to her again, the police won't be the ones you're worried about." Dominic looked back at me, his eyes narrowing, the desperation finally curdling into spite. "Fine. Keep the house. It's a cage anyway. You'll be alone, Sloane. A bitter, lonely woman with a big house and no one to love her. Let's see how your independence feels when Leo starts asking why his daddy isn't home." "Leo will know his father was a parasite," I said, my voice cold and final. "And he will know his mother was the one who kept the roof over his head. Now get out, before I have the officers add trespassing to your family's growing list of charges." Dominic lunged for the door, a last-ditch effort to grab his laptop or his pride. But Harrison stepped into his path like a stone wall. Dominic recoiled, realizing he was truly powerless. He turned and stomped toward the garage, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I stood on the porch and watched him drag his overpriced luggage down the driveway. He looked small. For 3 years, he had loomed over me like a giant, but in the harsh light of the truth, he was just a boy playing dress-up in a house he couldn't afford. The police cars pulled away, taking the noise and the Miller women with them. The neighborhood fell into a heavy, expectant silence. I looked down at the new key in my hand, my thumb tracing the sharp edges. The battle was won, but the war for my future was just beginning. I turned the key in the lock. The door opened with a smooth, silent click. I stepped inside and shut the world out. The heavy oak door thudded shut, muffling the distant sound of Dominic's retreating footsteps and the fading rumble of the patrol cars. For the first time in 3 years, the house was silent. It wasn't the tense, suffocating silence of walking on eggshells. It was the vast, echoing quiet of a sanctuary. I leaned my back against the door and let out a breath I felt I'd been holding since the day I said I do. My lungs ached with the sudden intake of freedom. "Sloane." My father's voice came from the hallway. He was carrying Leo, who had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep against Harrison's shoulder. The sight of my son, safe and away from the venomous tongues of the Miller family, made my throat tighten. "He's out," Dad whispered, his eyes softening as he looked at me. "I'll put him in his room. You look like you're about to collapse." "I'm not collapsing, Dad," I said, pushing off the door, my spine straightening. "I'm just getting started." "Cleaning house?" Harrison asked, leaning against the doorframe after tucking Leo in. "Exercising it," I replied, my movements sharp and efficient. "I want every trace of them gone by morning, every scent of Dominic's cologne, every one of Victoria's decorative trinkets that she bought with my stolen money. I want this place to smell like it belongs to me again." "You did good today, Sloane," Dad said, stepping in to help me haul the heavy bag toward the garage. "But you know they won't go quietly. Dominic is a cornered rat, and Victoria, a woman like that doesn't just go to jail. She plots." "Let her plot from a cell," I snapped, tying the knot on the bag. I've spent 3 years playing the part of the supportive wife. I've logged every transaction, saved every text, and recorded every threat. If they want a war, I've already built the fortress. I sat down at the kitchen island and opened my laptop. The blue light reflected in my eyes, which were no longer red from crying, but bright with cold calculation. I logged into the Blue Horizon Holdings portal. "What are you doing now?" my father asked. "Freezing the joint accounts," I said, my fingers flying across the keys. "Dominic thinks he has a few days to scramble for cash. He doesn't. I'm cutting the line tonight, and then I'm calling the property management firm. I want a for lease sign on the lawn by Monday." "You're moving?" "No," I said, looking up with a grim smile. "I'm staying, but I'm going to make sure the legal record shows that Dominic Miller has no residence here. I'm filing the formal eviction papers with the court at 8 a.m. I want a paper trail so thick he'll never be able to breathe near this zip code again." Just then, my phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unknown number. "You think you won, Sloan? You haven't seen anything yet? I'm coming for what's mine?" D. I didn't tremble. I didn't delete it. I took a screenshot, sent it to my lawyer, and then to Officer Miller. "He's still talking about what's his," I told my father, my voice echoing in the empty kitchen. "He still hasn't realized that the only thing he truly owns is the air in his lungs, and even that is on borrowed time." Be kind, but don't be a doormat. Never hand the keys to your life to someone else. Stay independent so you can always protect yourself. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe for more upcoming stories.